What it do to? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says. I am your host, and in the last video, I covered extensively the aftermath of the Rams' roller coaster victory over the old goat and down in Tampa Bay. And we set up a preview of the upcoming rematch, the third in the trilogy this year, between Los Angeles and Sean the Boy Wonder McVay and their nemesis, the arch rival, division rival, San Francisco 49ers, them damn Niners, and Father Shanahan, who has managed to keep the Boy Wonder in his pocket for all these last 3 years and counting. And so, this video, the last video, went a little longer than any of the others that had come before, in fact. So I think I proved I can produce lengthier content. But it was a good one now, and I hope you checked it out. But this time, I wanted to do a shorter video. I want to prove that I can provide pithy content as well, you see? And so I just wanted to put out a quick video just ahead of championship weekend. And this one will include some of the things I wasn't able to get to in my last video just because of the running time. So I want to touch on the overtime rule change proposal coming directly from Scotty Says. And also, of course, I want to give you my predictions for championship weekend. I want to touch on updates as well. Injury updates as we are now approaching just about 48 hours from kickoff. So, and I also want to touch on the experts. But briefly, before all that, during story time last episode, I told you about the Rams 49ers rivalry, them damn Niners. And I told you about the deep roots and the connections and how they go back between Sean McGenius and Father Shanahan, back to D.C. and the original Grandpapa Shanahan, the Red Rat. But what I didn't mention was that it was very well known that Sean McGenius at that time, though bright and gregarious, was like an intern, a project. He was allowed on the scene, and he had access, by virtue of his lineage and his connections and so forth. But he was basically a gopher for Father Shanahan. There are stories about how he had duties like making sure that the Shanahan's play sheet was laminated, or that he had multiple copies, and that at one point he didn't have a second copy of a laminated play sheet, and Father Shanahan gave McGenius the what for, filled his ears up, gave him a good lashing. Okay? And so way back then, Father Shanahan had McGenius in his pocket. And so, of course, there must be a lot of emotional and psychological stuff going on when these two 20-somethings and Kyle Shanahan, father, is about 6 years older than McGenius. And so for these two now to be facing each other in a game for all the marbles, the biggest game of their careers, I would go so far to say. And all of that other stuff still swimming and floating around. And yet, as Father said, I agree with him, neither Father nor McWonder will make a single tackle. Now, McWonder might run around, but it will be off the field. And so, at the end of the day, the players got to play. Okay? And the Rams have more talent, I believe. And yet, through scheme and through will and force of personality, it seems, somehow a less talented 49ers team keeps getting the one-up on the Rams. I watched the replay of Week 18, Rams-Niners, at the Palace. And that crowd situation was real, especially at the end, because them Niner fans were quiet in the first half because they were shut out. They're damn near shut out. But in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, they were keeping up a lot of racket. And it's true, Matty from the D had to go silent count at home in order to hear because the rival fans were making so much noise. And this thing is a thing now. So apparently, I've heard, latest update, I saw somewhere, they have projected that it will be 65% Niner fans to 35% Rams fans at the championship game at the Palace on Sunday. I'm like, what? For real? Well, I'll be watching from the best seat in the house, of course. But that's sort of troubling that them damn Niner fans trying to make another takeover. And so during that replay, there were just things that leapt out at me the end of that game. And as I predicted in my last video, see, it still comes back down to the lines, the O-line versus the D-line on both sides. And in that last game, especially in the fourth quarter and overtime, San Francisco's O-line pushed the Rams around. And their D-line wreaked havoc on Matty from the D. The fact that they can get such consistent pass rush pressure with 4, that they never have to blitz, is remarkable. The Rams repeatedly will have 5 linemen blocking 4 San Francisco pass rushers, and the pocket is collapsing, and Matty is getting bumped around and off the spot and tossing ahead of time incomplete. And so if it's a repeat of that, where they can dominate the line play, I don't know how McGenius can scheme a win up out of that. And then when you factor in the psychological and emotional baggage, it's a thing. And then you have the crowd. It's a thing. So this is going to be epic. In the immortal words of Bart Scott, can't wait. Okay? In that fourth quarter replay of the San Francisco game, and Sox makes this incredible interception. And it's acrobatic. It's tipping and flipping and tripping, and he pulls it down in the end zone. And he should have stayed there, but he got up and ran a few yards. Okay. But then it was Sox again at the end of the fourth quarter. Scorched, I tell you. Lit a fire, burnt up by Deebo Samuels with 53 seconds left to play in regulation. It was a 43-yard burn. That, a couple plays later, led to the busted coverage play touchdown. They tied the game up, and that was, the Rams were up 7 with less than a minute to play, and the defense got a hold, and they bent and they broke. And then in overtime, here's the thing. In overtime, it's a 10-minute overtime as it's constituted in the regular season anyway. It's a 10-minute overtime. And San Francisco won the coin toss. And I'm going to get back to that, but I'm telling you now, that's where the problem is. That if you play 60 minutes of football, see, and you guys have played to a draw After all that time, a coin flip should not determine your fate. Essentially, it does now. If both teams, you saw Kansas City and Buffalo, if both teams were very evenly matched, or let's say both teams have high-power offenses and struggling defenses, whoever wins that coin flip is going to win the game. That's no good. You got to fix that, NFL. Thankfully, I'm here to help. Okay? And so I already know I'll probably see this implemented in 2 or 3 years, and I'll be like, that was my idea. And I won't get one red dime. Like Little Richard said, not one hard-boiled egg will they give me. But I'm going to share it with you anyway. I'm going to get back to my overtime rule change proposal. Okay? But in that overtime loss, the Rams, it's a 10-minute overtime now. The Rams lost the coin flip. San Francisco gets the ball. They kept the ball now. 10-minute overtime. San Francisco keeps the ball 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Just driving, bleeding the Rams out, eating up clock. I'm looking at this again like, wow. So they chew up nearly 75% of the overtime just grinding the ball. And eventually, they settle for the field goal. Rams get the ball back with 2:20, 2:30 to play. Now, they got to hurry up and make something happen in 2 minutes and change. I don't like the way the overtime rules are structured at all. And in the case of the Rams, well, in that 2:30, there was time to make something happen, but Matty from the D got greedy. See? In that overtime game, and again, I'm impressed with San Francisco, how they can get such consistent pressure with 4. 4 rushing, 5 linemen, 5 blocking, 5 protecting, and 4 collapse in the pocket. And the running back was wide open over the middle. He could have run for 20 yards or more. But Matty from the D got greedy. Eyes got big. That poltergeist got into the back of his head in the medulla. The poltergeist said, "Get in, Matty." And he threw that up and the pocket collapsed and it was short, like the comment I referenced in a previous video. He said, "I just left it short." Yeah, you left it short. Interception. Poltergeist strike. Game over. So, if San Francisco and the line play continues to be dominant as it has been, as it was the last time they met, the Rams are going to have problems. And Matty from the D has to play clean. I will say this. I feel newfound confidence in Matthew Stafford, and so I'll bet he feels. I think he may have exercised his demon. So we'll see. Hopefully we won't need him to be a hero. But if needed, he can do it. My overtime rule change proposal. First of all, no coin toss. Lose it. Just like with that Rams-San Francisco game in Week 18, San Francisco wins the coin flip and possesses the ball for 75% of the quarter of overtime, leaving the Rams 2 minutes to try to scramble under pressure. Unfair. And I know the old fogies say, well, if you can't stop them, you deserve to lose. Get out of here with that. What if you've got 2 equally matched teams, maybe both with high-powered offenses, and the team that wins the coin flip gets the victory by virtue of the coin flip? No, that's not. It's no good. my overtime rule change proposal is simply this. Both teams will get to possess the football regardless of outcome of the opening drive of overtime. This creates fairness. Now, at the conclusion of the second possession or the opponent's possession, final score wins. So if one team scores 3, one scores 7, that's it, game over. If both teams, however, put up a field goal, or if both teams put up a touchdown and the score remains tied, or if neither team does, then sudden death rules apply. I think both teams should get the ball from their 30-yard line, their own. And whatever they do or don't do on that drive, the other offense gets the ball from their own 30-yard line. There is no clock. So it's not a rush. You play it out. They go for it on fourth down if they want to. If they fail, the new team, the next team takes over from their own 30-yard line and they get a drive. And they can go make whatever decision or choice they want to. But at the conclusion of, you could do it just on the first drive. At the conclusion of both teams' possession, each having a drive, if the score remains tied, then sudden death rules apply. Otherwise, you've got a winner. And so it could end up being the first team scores 7, well, then the second team now, a field goal is now out of the equation. They have to score 7. So they would have to go for it on fourth down every time, because the initial team possessing the ball would then have forced them to go for 7. And they would have the option, once they score 6, they could say, hey, I want to win right now. Go for the 2 and win or lose on that. And the first team could do so as well. They could put up 8 on their opening possession, and that would force the opponent to match that 8. The only way they could play it out would be to match that 8 and then go into sudden death. And in terms of who gets the ball first, there's no coin flip. The way this would work is whichever team scores first in regulation, they will get the ball first should the game go to overtime. The only way there would be any issue at all would be if the score is 0-0 going into overtime. And then in that case, visiting team would get the ball first if you had a 0-0 score. Otherwise, whichever team put the first points on the board, be it safety, field goal, touchdown, in regulation, would possess the ball first in overtime. So, Roger Goodell, the NFL, you're welcome, because I know how you're going to do it. In a couple of years, I'll see my overtime proposal implemented, and you won't give me not one hard-boiled egg, like Little Richard said. Not one hard-boiled egg will you give me. But, hey, you're welcome. All right. So, leave me a comment now. What do you think? Huh? That make it better, doesn't it? Don't you think? And Roger Goodell, if you're listening, shoot me a word or two. All right. Now, I want to say a word about the experts, okay? And by the experts, I'm talking about the Sniff Baylesses of the world. I'm talking to you, Cynthia Junk Scientist Freeland. I'm talking about the Muppet and Noodles the Beak. Do you know who I'm talking about when I have a nickname for a lot of people in case you guys haven't noticed it yet? The Muppet and Noodles the Beak and Sniff Bayless and the Junk Scientist all of these so-called experts. All right, now listen. I peep game. I see what's really going on here. These people are not experts. Okay? Sniff Bayless, I see what you've done. You have figured out a way to make millions of dollars while doing what for a living? Talking about them damn Dallas Cowboys, your childhood crush. And so as a grown-ass old man, you make all this money. You set up tent in Los Angeles under the golden sun, breathing that fresh ocean air. And all you do from your LA perch is squawk about them damn Dallas Cowboys day in, day out. Dallas stinks, okay? And see, I see what you're doing. You're not an expert. You're just a lover or a hater of teams and people. You love Tom Brady. Wherever he goes, you love him. You hate LeBron. Wherever he goes, you hate him. And so you've made a living, a lucrative one, just talking about your love of them raggedy-ass Dallas Cowboys and your love of the old GOAT and your hatred for the king. And you do this with little variation every damn day. But why don't you go to Dallas and do it, Sniff? See, that's what I would say. Take your circus show back to Texas. Take Shannon with you, because I'm sure wherever you paying, he'll be playing. Because I would like for the LA air to have talk of LA things. Fight on. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the purple and gold tales from the crypto. Let's talk about Rambo. I want to hear about that, Sniff. You're not an expert. Cynthia Freeland is a junk scientist. She doesn't have a formula. See, she's hustling the people. That's what she's doing. Hustling the people. Like the Mistress of Oz, right? Behind the curtain. It's just this woman curtain. You reveal she's back there just like blindfolded picking teams. That's the formula, see? But actually, it's more to it than that, because she always picked against the Rams. And I saw, shockingly, her formula came up with a Rams win. Well, what do you know? So now I'm really worried, because that formula about the Rams been wrong for her all year long. So now she's picking the Rams. I'm like, uh-oh, what is this? Is she doing the reverse whammy on us? I'm watching what you're doing now. All these guys, these guys, I'm not talking about the ballers now. If you like Michael Irvin and people like this, you played the game, and most of them that you see on TV played it on a high level. Kurt Groceries Warner played at a high level. These guys that end up getting to the TV, most of them played at a very high. They didn't just make it to the league. They played at a high level. So I confer expert upon them, even though they pick wrong just as often as the other experts. Because I think what happens is they get into the mix with the TV people, and they get into that, they fall into those lazy habits. Seattle, huh? Seattle. Why? Where'd that come from? I don't know. Everybody else said it. Lemmings. It's time for a new generation of experts. That old guard, hey, flabby and wealthy and lazy, drinking wine and eating turkey legs with the togas on. It's time for the new guard, the next generation, lean and hungry and got that eye of the tiger. All right, so speaking of next generation, I don't think that the old goat should retire. I think B.A. should retire. B.A. for bad actor. Yeah, Bruce Arians, you need to go. You striking your players? You feel comfortable enough, entitled enough to run out on the field and forearm shiver a guy in the head because you say you were afraid he might get a penalty? What in the name of all that is holy is going on here? No, you have gotten to the point now where you need to go. Tom Brady should play on. He had a great year. You need to go. What if that dude would have smacked the holy snot out of you, Bruce? Limping around with a cane goal and a hover round. Old fool, old devilish fool. All right. So, enough of that. Let's get to the good stuff. And now, my friends, the time has come to raise the roof and have some fun. Put away the work to be done. Let the football play on. Yeah. All right, Championship Sunday now. I don't know, 48 hours away, if that. And I predicted in my last video 31-27 Rams, and I need to adjust my prediction. That's right. It is still an LA Rams victory, but I'm going to throttle it down, the score, to 27-23 Rams. 27-23 Rams. And that hits that 50 over under. For the bettors, I'm not. And for KC and Cincinnati, I'm rolling with my homeboy. And them damn infernal chopping. I don't like it now. I don't like all that chopping and that mockery of native culture. You're mocking your genocide of a people out there sing-songing and tomahawk chopping, and I don't like it one little bit. And the Washington Slurs did the right thing by getting rid of that mascot. And so did Stanford. And so did Cleveland. And you and Atlanta, you need to step into the civilized world and get rid of it. That whole symbolism. So, I'm picking them to win over Cincinnati, 37-27. But I tell you what, the Rams will take care of them in the big game at the Palace in Inglewood. And you know we will be there to cover it. Injury update as it stands. Trent Williams, big offensive lineman for the Niners, is still questionable. Probably game time decision, hasn't practiced. For the Rams, looks like Noteboom, who played well, will not play this time round with that pec injury. He is listed as doubtful. So, Van Jefferson on the injury report listed as questionable with a knee injury. Taylor the Rapper upgraded to questionable. Man, that concussion must have been a doozy. And so there it is. The teams are set. Let's get it on. Let's get ready. I'm pulling out all the cliches, but I can't wait. And so, until that time, which will be the next time, you know we will be here to cover it on the other side of what I expect to be a big-time Rams victory, and then looking forward to preparations for KC and the Super Bowl at the Palace in Inglewood. Throw me one of these. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until then, my folks, one love.